وخصوصا لما تكون مرأة بطولة.
En même temps, si la femme est dépolitisée, elle dépolitise pas.
كيفاش نحكيو على الارت ديجيتال من غير ما نحكيو على NFT، تكنولوجي جديدة اللي عملت ريفولوشن في عالم الفن. عالسلامة، أنا ليلى، وفي الإبيزود هذه قررت نحكيو على NFT موضوع الساعة. كما تعرفش شنو الكلمة هذه يجي نفسر لك. NFT معناها Non-Fungible Token. باش نفهم وش معناها Non-Fungible Token يلزم الساعة نفهم وش معناها Fungible، اللي معناها Remplaçable. مثلاً كان ضيعت 20 دينار في سهرية تنجم تعوضها أي زوز 10,000 خاطرها فانجبل. أما كان ضيعت سمارت فون ما تنجمش خاطر عنده قيمة ويتسمى نون فانجبل. NFT بالعربي رمز غير قابل للاستبدال. هي عبارة على شيء مثلاً تصويرة فريدة من نوعها وعندها قيمة. كي تشري NFT كأنك تشري شهادة على أوتنتيسيتي الحاجة هذيك. كيف الموناليزا فما برشا نسخ أما ما يجيوش قد قيمة الأصلية. باش تشري NFT يلزمك الأكثرية عملة رقمية كيف الإيثيريوم ولا التيزوس، واللي يعس على البيع والشراء مش عبد ولا شركة، أما تكنولوجي البلوك تشين اللي تخلي كل شيء ترانسبارون وتراسابل. الحكاية هذه موجودة في تونس أي ولينا نحكيو عليها برشا، وغيسامون حتى فما رابور تونسي خرج غنية NFT، واللوفر على الغنية ذي توا وصلت ل $325. حسيلو نجم نقولوا ال NFT والبلوك تشين هما الفيوتشر خاصة بالنسبة للديجيتال آرتست. اليوم باش نحكي مع كنزة زواري NFT art collector و curator. حكينا على NFT في تونس وشنية لافونيغ متاعو. Hello and welcome all. Hello Kenza, I'm glad to have you in this interview for this podcast about digital arts. You introduce yourself as a collector, curator and NFT art specialist. If you can talk more about yourself and your career.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me today. I've been a collector for many years now in the traditional art world. I've been collecting art since I'm 18, since I was 18. And then I worked in the arts in 2017, which kind of encouraged me to look at curation and how one curates and how do you curate art. I was lucky to work for the Kamel Foundation in Tunisia, and we worked at the time for Jau 2018. We had 4 spaces, and each spaces was kind of a let's say a very important monument of Tunisia and kind of its culture. There was we had 4 curators, and so working with them, trying to like understand how they would work with their artists, how you would invest in a space, the kind of work that you would like to, display, and all of that was really fascinating to me. So I think my passion for curation kind of started at the time. And then I have also background in management. Like I've been kind of in and out the art world, but for the past 2 years now, starting March 2020, I entered the NFT space, starting to understand what an NFT is, how it works, how it empowers artists, and how you could curate NFT art. And in a nutshell, that's kind of how I would introduce myself, I guess.
So what motivated you to start collecting NFTs, and what fascinated you about the world of NFTs? What was the moment when you said, yes, this is what I want to dig deeper into?
Well, I think for your audience to understand what we're talking about, let's define NFT and NFT art in general, because an NFT can be many things. So again, back in March 2020, I downloaded Clubhouse, which is a social media, like a social app that works with the voice. So you entered basically small rooms with people talking, and you can listen to them. You can also talk. It was pretty nice, but all the rooms on Clubhouse were about NFTs, and I had no idea what NFT was. So I entered the rooms and I started learning. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So an NFT stands for non-fungible token. And it means that it is not dividable, basically. So you have cryptocurrency, which you can, divide. You can have 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.1 Ethereum, but you cannot have 0.1 NFT. So an NFT is going to stand for a digital asset. And I grew interested in NFT as NFT art, so digital art, so a digital asset, but it's an artwork, basically. So it could be a digital painting, it could be a movie, a video, animation, music, anything that is digital. And so people were talking about NFTs as like this new way of selling digital art. And I was really fascinated because to me, this was a new way for digital artists to sell their work very easily and to be kind of to be talking to an international audience at the same time. So you enter this community, you show your work to people all over the world. They can purchase your work very easily with crypto, obviously. For some countries, it's not easy yet, like ours. But yeah, I was just fascinated by how the community was starting to be built and about, this new comeback of digital art, because digital art has been there for like since the 60s, right? And before in art fairs or in galleries, you would buy those digital art with, basically you would buy an USB. Now you have an artwork that you cannot lose. So your USB, you could lose it, or you could start working, whatever. But with NFTs, it is forever on what we call the blockchain. And so if you can't really lose it. And also we know who created it, we know who owns it, and who sold it as well. And that's very important. The authenticity and the ownership and the traceability of art, which is a big problem in the traditional art world. But in the NFT world, this is what people are interested in. They're like, okay, everybody's going to know that this is my work. And collectors are like, everybody's going to know that I own this work. And not only do you have like this traceability, authenticity and all, but also the fact that artists are able to gain royalties out of the sales of those NFTs. So for example, they're going to get some money out of the primary sales, so the first time they're going to sell their work. But then if those collectors decide to sell it again and again and again, every time there's a sale, the artist is going to get a percentage of that sale. And usually artists are kind of getting money out of those secondary sales more than the primary sales. So all of that was, to me, super interesting. And I was, I thought that would be amazing for Tunisia, but unfortunately we're not quite there yet. But yeah, I just wanted to enter it and see how I could participate and bring value to the space as well.
Nice. And you brought this in your response that it's an added value and it's kind of a revolution for a digital artist, the NFT world. And I think especially for the African artists and even minority in Tunisia, because you get to present yourself to an international audience and you don't have the middleman sit between you. You have your space, you have your collectors. So what do you think is the added value for African artists, for African digital artists?
That's a good question. I think there are many opportunities in the space for minorities in general, geographical minorities, gender minorities, sexual minorities. Obviously, they all get the chance to speak up, and small communities are being created to kind of empower those. But I need to say that the space is still, let's say, mainly driven by white men, because also the crypto world has been, led by white men for a while. And so it came from that culture. So if you go on NFT marketplaces such as Super Rare or Foundation, you can see the top 5 or top 10 selling artists. You're going to see they're all white men at 90%, right? But still, I think that people have the power to kind of gather together and decide to create organizations together, which we call DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, and also just like clubs and things like that, and kind of highlight each other. So, of course, the fact that you can talk to an international audience and that you can show your work like to influencers or collectors in the space is always going to be a good thing and an opportunity, especially for minorities. But it's going to take some time.
All right. In this context, I saw also you started with a collective that's super cool. That's called Cyberbat, and it's like for African digital artists. If you can talk about this collective and this experience.
Very, very proud of Cyberbat. Yeah. So it was last September, end of September, beginning of October, I curated an exhibition on the metaverse, which is a virtual world, called Crypto Voxels. So you have many virtual worlds. Crypto Voxel is just one of them. And I had a friend who built a gallery on Crypto Voxels and was like, Kenza, do you want to... he opened this for curators to just take over the space and curate. And so we were like, okay, let's do something. And I really wanted to focus on African artists at the time. So I did an exhibition with African artists, and I met several really incredible artists. And one of them, but I knew her from before, but she helped me find other artists. Her name is Linda Dunia. She's half Senegalese, half Lebanese. And at approximately the same time, I think she curated an exhibition on Foundation, which is an NFT marketplace, and in Dakar, Senegal, a physical one. Mm-hmm. So, and she called it Cyberbat. And so after I did mine, after she did hers, we talked again in November of last year, and she told me how she wanted to turn Cyberbat into a DAO and have North Africa being included in the DAO. So she had... she knew a bunch of artists in Africa, West, East, South, but it was in Central, but it was what she was missing is kind of the North. So yeah, I decided to jump in and we started building the DAO. So a DAO is, again, a decentralized autonomous organization. It works like an investment fund, I would say, where people will put a bit of money, and with that money, they're going to invest in things. And so what we wanted to do is create a fundraiser, which we did, in which we would be selling NFTs. So we have a collective of artists who produced an NFT for this specific fundraiser. And so we sold those NFTs. We're selling them actually right now to fund our activities, which will be residencies, exhibitions, workshops. We are going to work on a zine. So we have many things that are upcoming. And the collectors, the persons who collect the NFTs, they get a bunch of benefits from that. So the DAO is structured as the operations team, so the core team, which is working on setting the strategy, etc. The artist club, so the artists who are members of the DAO, and the collectors club, so who collected from us. And yeah, we're focusing on Africa to create opportunities, to create new initiatives in each other's countries as well. And I'm really proud because really the artists in the DAO are amazing, and the synergy between us is also incredible. So we're looking forward to many things. This year we're going to go to Art Dubai in March, to the Non-Fungible Conference in Lisbon. So really we're trying to highlight the work of African artists. And the cool thing is that really soon we're going to be releasing the artist applications. So more artists will be able to join the DAO.
That's really good. And it's like putting them on the scene and putting them out there and introducing kind of African digital art, which is like put in diversity in art, but also put in diversity in the digital artwork. You said you created before, like physical exhibitions. So I'm curious here, what's the difference between creating these exhibitions and creating like a digital exhibition where you have to promote NFTs and you have to be constantly on the web?
Yeah, it's very different. Really, really different. Because when you're creating in the traditional art world, you have to take into consideration production costs, which are very minimum in the NFT space. And usually, I mean, especially in Tunisia, the art scene is so small. You don't need to do a lot of marketing. People will know what you do, even if you haven't talked about it, mashallah, but like, you know that they're going to know what you're doing. So, yeah, I would say, first of all, this is one big difference. And then the production costs are really important because depending on what kind of exhibition you're going to do and with which artists you're going to work, the costs are going to be different. The sculpture, an artist who does sculptures is going to be very different than working with a painter, et cetera, et cetera. In the NFT space, you just have one kind of type of digital asset in the sense that it's going to be, of course, you can show it different ways, like if it's a 3D art or if it's going to be just it's going to be an animation or a painting. But the idea is kind of the same. The artist is going to mint the work, and then you're going to have the file, and you can display it the way you want. The limitations in terms of spaces are kind of the same. Like to find a space to create a show, both in the traditional art world and in the metaverse, is a bit difficult because, I mean, you're always going to be dependent on the space and how it looks. Though you could create your own space in the metaverse, which is kind of a nice freedom, but you also can create it in the traditional world. It's just easier to do it in the metaverse. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I would say it's different, but you can find like small similarities between the two types of creation.
And while you are creating these, have you had any impressions on the digital art sector in Africa and Tunisia, like any discoveries sort of you didn't know about before?
In what way?
Like you discovered new artists, or you discovered that Tunisia has a specific approach to digital art, or it's very diverse?
I mean, for Tunisia, it's still pretty minimum. Like, we don't have many NFT artists. It's growing, but it's still a very small number. And of course, I discovered many, many new artists. And every day you're going to discover new artists because you're part of communities and people are going to introduce you new artists and new people. And every day there's going to be a new artist. And it's all ages, right? That I've seen children, like literally kids, and I've seen people in their 70s. So there is no rules in terms of age, gender, anything. Like it's really open. But yeah, when especially when I created the first exhibition in the metaverse, it's Linda helped me, for example, to find other artists, and the African NFT Club, which exists, like also helped me find African artists. So every day you're gonna meet new ones. In Tunisia, you also need to do your homework, but it's a bit more difficult for obvious reasons. But yeah.
Yeah. You started talking about the challenges, sort of like discovering, researching artists. What other challenges you run into when creating these events?
Honestly, not much. In the metaverse, you mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, maybe the one thing, and that's one of the main topics lately in the space, is possibly the lack of support. Like, there is one thing that is really troubling me about the space is that it's all about ego. So sometimes people will support you because they think they're going to gain something out of it. So they want, for people to know that they know you. And it's kind of those kind of mechanism.
Dynamics, yeah.
Which also exists in the traditional art world. So what I was afraid of when I entered the space is that we were just going to do copy paste, take the traditional art world, copy and paste it into the NFT world. The only difference right now is that people won't stay silent. So that's really good. And they're really trying to build their own kind of communities and decide what they, how to raise their voices and things like that. So, I'd say one of the challenges is finding the right support. You don't want people who will just shallowly support you. You really want a strong support. And when you create a DAO, for example, for Cyberbat, we are very, we are looking into who are collecting from us, because these people are going to be part of our community. Do they represent our values? Are we in agreement? Like, do we share the same values? Do we share the same principles? All of that. It's very important, because you don't want to, you want real support. So I would say that.
That's good. And you talked about values. Which kind of values are we talking about?
First of all, openness and honesty, transparency. These are the value of the space in general, of the blockchain in general. Transparency, authenticity, being authentic, being honest, being transparent. I'd say, and being open, tolerant. Recently, there was like what we call crypto drama. Someone who shared in the past some views that were very sexist, homophobic, transphobic. And that person, got really, even though it was written a few years ago, it still hurt the community. And so we talked about this. We were like, these are not the values that can be transmitted in the space. So that's an example.
Yeah. Even if it's like the metaverse or the virtual space, it needs also to have the human values that we have in
100%. I mean, you still have humans behind those avatars, but yeah.
Another thing and why I invited you here is because I joined many NFT groups, like NFT Tunisia, to see how the scene is going. And I felt it was pretty much like male dominated. I don't know if you share my perspective or not. And I was happy to find that a woman is actually a pioneer in this field.
Yeah, 100%. Like I told you, it's not only male dominated; it's white male dominated. But we're evolving. But yeah, in Tunisia, I don't know if you were talking specifically about Tunisia or about the space in general. Tunisia's, yeah. I mean, Tunisia, for some of the startups or companies that work in the field, it's not really NFT related. I would say it's more blockchain and trying to build on that technology. Yeah, I saw just men. I was invited. It was a funny story. I was invited to an event a few months ago to receive an award. My award was just mentioning women in crypto. I'm like, thank you so much for thank you for, I guess it's amazing for me to be a woman. Thanks. Great achievement. But I went and I was invited to speak on a panel with a few men. and I think I was just invited. I mean, I'm not sure, but I felt like I was just invited because they were lacking women. I think we were maybe 2 or 3 women speakers. And so, and I saw all of the Tunisians involved in blockchain and investment, but they're really more focused on, I think, not the art side, but more the technological side and financial side. The art is not there yet, the art scene and how it works. But you're right.
And what do you think is the solution? Kind of the solution is not putting it in a superficial way, like you said, women in crypto, but do you think we should have trainings to speak up and say to women, you can enter this world? What do you think the challenges are? What is sort of the solution we can find in here?
I think there are many women in the space. I just think they're not giving them space. I really think so. I think men are louder. They're easily put on the spot. I don't know. It's it's different. The dynamics are different, but there are many women in the space, amazing women in the space. In Tunisia, I'm afraid I'm not really familiar with how many women are in the space. But when I look at it from an international perspective, I see many, many amazing women. Again, it's just that right now, men are louder. They usually come from that, the crypto world and the blockchain, which was, again, very male and white men dominated. But it's starting to slowly change. I know several people and several women working with women in the blockchain, with women artists, trying to promote and highlight and launch initiatives, and you can find them. It's just that they're not.
They need visibility.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and we started talking kind of the advantages of NFT and how it's important for a digital artist to have ownership, authenticity, and to put their work out there without the need of sort of many middlemen and many kind of structures. But what are the disadvantages of NFT?
The disadvantage. Well, okay. First of all, I think there is a problem that is related to mental health, because in the NFT space, you need to be constantly active on social media. Like, it's insane. You need to be on 1,000 apps and talking to 1,000 people per day and promote your work over and over and over again. And it's not even sometimes your work that you're promoting yourself. Like, you're selling yourself, which is terrible. And terrible for two reasons. The first one is that, well, obviously it's not good for you, to be selling you and not your art, and also for your mental health to be constantly on social media and constantly under this pressure of selling and showing and, showing yourself. And then the second thing is that people will buy you and not your work. So in terms of quality, art quality in the space right now, it's very questionable. Sometimes I see things that are being sold at insane prices, and I'm like, what is that? Why? So these are the two reasons I say bad. And then I know where you want to go. I know you want to talk about the environment, the environmental consequences, and
the question mark.
Yeah, I can't answer you. I know that mining, which is not minting. So minting is the act of putting your work on the blockchain. So minting an NFT, which is uploading your NFT basically, is costing less energy than mining. Mining is when you're going to create new, or I'm also not the best person to talk about that, but it's related to the blockchain and how Bitcoin was created and all of that. So when mining, it is consuming a lot of energy, but we're not, not every country has the right to mine or has enabled this, and I think for Ethereum, for example, they are moving from, and I'm not sure, again, I'm really not the best person to talk about that, but there's two protocols, the proof of work and proof of stake. I think one of them, I forgot which one, is more environmental friendly and should be where we are going to transition. And Ethereum already transitioned to that. And then you have very environmental friendly chains like Tezos, what we call green NFTs, and Polygon as well. And so it's I think we're finding solutions to all of these environmental concerns. However, let's be honest, the pollution of also big companies or big manufacturers or existing in the traditional, the physical world, is also consuming a lot of energy, polluting. It's you have negative and positive in every kind of world.
Yeah, but I find it interesting that the artists that want to be ecologically aware and eco-friendly, they even created these alternatives and these platforms, and they even brought this to the table. And that's when who created the Ethereum started thinking about having different technologies for the space. which is good that we see changes. Even in this community, when you bring something to the table, you can see the change behind it.
100%. I have a friend who is also in the DAO. Her name is Akasia. She's working on a project that is really environmental, focused on environment, the environment and how we can preserve it. And so she's using NFTs to actually conduct expeditions, scientific expeditions, to find solutions and to conduct research on everything that is environment related. Of course, she would be best talking about it. Like she would better talk about it, but yeah, I know people who actually launch initiatives to really focus on the environment and how you can use NFTs in the blockchain to improve the environment and to help against global warming. But it's again, like you can't. It can be black and white. It needs to be gray. Like it's you will find advantages, disadvantages in every places. But yeah.
I want to ask now. I want to go back to focalize on Tunisia. Are people pushing back from are they away from the NFT world, or are they enthusiastic about the NFT market?
The few people that talk to, I think we're pretty enthusiastic about it, but we're quickly brought back to the reality of things where we know that we can't do a lot, especially when you are 100% Tunisian and based here and all. Like it's complicated. So I know a lot of people who really want to do things. Could be mint NFTs, but also could be initiatives in the space, in the digital space, in NFT space. But yeah, I haven't really met anyone who was like, no, I don't like it, or I'm not interested in. I think they're all very interested in the space, but it's those little challenges and obstacles that cannot let us fully, to explore fully the possibilities of the space.
Yeah, the fact that cryptocurrency situation is blurry, the fact we don't have some laws that regulate this. What do you think the responsibility of solving this kind of blurriness comes? Is it just the stakeholders and who regulate, or is it the responsibility of other people?
No, it's the government. The government needs to look into it. Whoever is responsible, right, for this. I don't know, I don't know, but yeah, it needs to come from the government. They need to say, okay, what is this? Do we want it? Do we not want it? I believe that everything, like all the startups or companies that want to specialize in blockchain can actually really help in Tunisia in general, or economy, or development, or in the art scene as well. But yeah, this needs to be people need to sit down and look at it and decide and make a decision. And
understand what is it.
Of course, you need to have a specialist, but I don't know if we're gonna do that. It's been, my biggest frustration is the fact that we can't have PayPal, like a basic, easy thing to implement. We can't, or we don't want. I don't even know what is happening there, but we don't have that, which is insane. We can't purchase anything online, so we're limited to whatever we have here, and they make it so difficult. I don't understand why, but I think our priority might even be PayPal before crypto. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it seems very distant, but it's also very close, because people now are minting and mining, and they are investing in the NFT marketplace, which is, I don't know if it's the hype about the new shiny object in Tunisia, or can we see a light at the end of the tunnel here?
Yeah, I don't think people are mining in Tunisia. I think one guy tried and then it didn't go well. But I don't think people are mining. Perhaps people are minting, yes. But I don't think it's just about the hype. I think it is just a new way of selling your art. And it's going to be there for probably years. It's just really, again, a new way of selling your art. And a new community that was built. And it's just this new ecosystem that is currently being built. And the art goes in pair with technology. So as technology is going to develop new ways of selling art and displaying art, and is going to evolve as well. I'll give you just one example. I think that every NFT collector is now, if not, is thinking of buying screens to show their NFTs. If they didn't do it yet. Some collectors already have bought screens or those objects that a company is doing, infinite objects, like a small, weird,
like they
hologram
did with
things.
people. Like
Exactly, yes. So even that, the way that it's going to change how you display art and how you collect art is something that is not going to change. And the fact that the technology is always going to change also means that you're always going to have to find new ways of showing your art. So yeah, I just think this new ecosystems will continue to be to grow, and I don't think it's going to disappear. At least not now. Probably not now.
Okay. And if we can highlight more, like you said, the effect of blockchain on the cultural sector. Do we have more visibility? Do we have more transparency here?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the beginning. It's about traceability, authenticity, and transparency. So again, when you're going to mint an NFT, you're going to know who did it. And if you're going to sell it, you're going to know who owns it. And you're going to be able to trace back its whole history. Also, very transparent, I or anyone can know how many money you have in your account. Super transparent. So everything that is, weird, that is fraud, we know it. Like a lot of already things happen, and people knew exactly who took that money when and how. And so there were many concerns about money laundering, for example, in the space, which is fair. It could be. But also you can identify them. So right now you can find reports saying, okay, these accounts look suspicious, so let's monitor them. So yeah, I think these are the three main pillars of being in the blockchain, of art in the blockchain. It's transparency, authenticity, traceability.
Nice. And you mentioned it through the whole conversation that you take into factor many values and many things while introducing an artist or while organizing an exhibition. If you can talk more about what things you take into consideration when you start creating an event or you start introducing a digital artist.
Good question. I think, the first thing is kind of understanding what I want to do. So what is the theme of my exhibition? And then where I'm going to do it. So it's kind of reverse. When I worked in when I created physical exhibition, it's funny because we thought about the subject kind of and we worked on the exhibition before even knowing where we were going to do it. In the space, I feel it's a bit different. You want to find a space and then work based on that. So yeah, I'd say the theme, the space, and then what do I want to do? Do I want to have artists making animations, just digital paintings, 3D sculptures, everything? I also need to pick kind of specific, if I want to focus on a specific medium or if I want to explore all of them. And then the story behind the piece, the art, is very important. And who is the artist as well is very important. And I think it's all of that. But it doesn't really, it's not very that different from the traditional world. It's the same. I'd say I'd have the same approach, except for the space. That's it.
But I think it's really good that you brought your approach, kind of highlighting the human side beside the technology, because you also talked about the quality. Now people want to own, and they can own low quality artworks, so that it doesn't matter to them as much. It matters the hype and the ownership aspect. So what do you do kind of to highlight the quality of the artwork and to make people interested in the...
I mean, I think it depends. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really, there's two things. There's, because I'm also a collector, I'm gonna find it beautiful, right? The art is going to speak to me. And so usually I ask myself, why? So why is this work speaking to me? And so I will use the answers of those questions to promote the work or like to select it and things like that. But some people, yes, it's true, they collect art that I believe is not transcendent, but they also have their reasons. Like, it's really, again, it's a good and it's a bad thing, because you're collecting from people who probably struggle and just want to put their art up there, but sometimes it's not that good. But it's also encouraging to have your work being collected. And I think also you're always challenged. You can collaborate, you want to improve. So there are, you know, it's also good to buy from artists that you're not in love with their work. But it's a good encouragement. But then, yeah, there is I think we need art critics a bit more in this space. And exactly like in Tunisia, we also need art critics, but we need more people writing, theorizing about art in the space, and then talking about, finding, I don't know, like really focusing on art and talking about it in an art critic way.
Yeah, not just in the technical sense.
Yeah, it's not just technical anyway. Like and then one thing that some people like want to talk about is the fact that they think the space is just speculative. Like, you just buy to resell and make profits. But this works with NFT collectibles, which are different than NFT art. Again, this is my opinion. NFT collectibles are usually those avatar projects, PFP, what we call PFP projects, profile picture projects, where you're going to buy one NFT, and sometimes it's going to blow up and you can resell it and make money out of it. But art is a bit more different. I feel like people really collecting art because they love the art. It's not the same approach as just, making money by collecting NFTs and reselling. This is a very important difference that needs to be made, because people sometimes confuse both. Like, they think NFT collectibles is the same as NFT art. It's not true. Yeah. It's not the same.
It has another value, and it has another work.
Usually those PFP projects have what we call utility. So if you own one of those NFTs, I don't know, for example, you can get access to VIP events, you can get airdrops, so what we call airdrops, so you can get other NFTs and like things like that. You can also do it in NFT art, but it's not the same focus, and it's not necessary also.
Yeah, it's not the same approach. Nope. You buy the art for the artist, and you buy the art to encourage the arts. Okay, now I want to ask, what does Kenza envision like the NFT marketplace in Tunisia, or in the African region in general? What kind of things you want to see or you want to do?
I think we need to focus on education first. Like, we need to talk to people about what is it? What is blockchain? What are NFTs? What is crypto? And we need to organize conferences, workshops. It's already happening in a few countries in Africa, in the whole continent. But this is also something we could do in Tunisia as well. They did one event, so the one I went to get my award for being a woman, I went, and it was interesting to at least have this happening. But we need more and more specialized, because there is also huge opportunities for gaming. Huge opportunities. And in Tunisia, we love gaming, and we have a few companies like Digital Mania who are focusing on gaming. And really amazing opportunities for play to earn and all of these kind of gaming opportunities. But also, in art and investment and startups, like there are many things that we can do. Now, the NFT market in Tunisia, I don't know. I really can't tell you. I think we need to start with education and then build from there. And ideally have our government support us.
Ideally. Yeah. They need to start thinking about it, because it's really good to see art integrate with technology and to go beyond the borders of introducing our artists to the international audience and introducing our artists in a different space that's becoming the space right now. It's not just the physical, it's the space.
100%.
So for any digital artists that listen to us, and this is not a financial advice, but what resources can we give him or her or them to start putting their work in a NFT marketplace?
Come talk to me and then we'll see. I can't give advice because it depends on what you want to do. I just think, do your own research as well. Like there are many documentation out there that you can, very accessible, that you can read about. Some business cases or like case studies, or have been already drafted, so you can read about, kind of what worked, what hasn't, what will work. As an artist, I think it's good to have knowledge about marketing, community. But I would say the first step is of course, documenting yourself, and everything's available. I'm available as well if they want to talk. But then also starting to get into those communities, talk to people in the community, do a Twitter account, a Discord account, enter those small communities and talk to people and learn from them. Because a lot of them have been there for years. So you will learn from them, and you can, I think, grow out of these conversations and the people that you're going to meet.
So they can join Cyberbat or any other community that's available.
Why not?
Yeah. Thank you for this conversation. It has been really interesting. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. No, again, I think, it is an interesting space with opportunities, with, of course, like concerns, like not everything, again, it's not black and white. It's really gray, but it is worth looking into. And my focus is really on art and how we can empower and help artists. So I think I just want to say that I look forward to see how it's going to evolve. I'm here also to bring and add value to the space. And just looking forward to see where we're going with that. But thank you.
Same. Thank you.